Hi everyone, Jason Camps here from C Squared Racing, and today's video is going to be about my experience working at Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the recent Brickyard 400 weekend, and of course everything that went on with the pandemic. Uh, as a lot of you know, I work at the Speedway as a pit road fireman as part of the Track Rescue team, although my assignments vary. I don't always just work pit road. For those that don't know, you don't have to be a formally trained fireman or EMT to work on a track safety team. Some of our people are. Some people come from other walks of life. Some people are retired. It's another one of those jobs that if you're interested in getting involved in motorsports and you don't have the opportunity to be a driver or on a team, call your local track and see if they need volunteers or part-time employees to help with things like that. You could also work with crowd control, concessions and souvenir sales, security, even course marshaling if they have a road course at that facility. So if you're interested, check that out. But this is not really a part of the job that a lot of people get to see outside of one documentary I can think of, Yellow, 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 which was the story that's available on Amazon of the IndyCar safety team. There really hasn't been a lot out there detailing, what it's like to work that type of job. So I wanted to show everybody what that was like. And I think this year was especially important because of everything going on with the pandemic. It was a big concern for me this year whether or not I was even going to work this event because I was really worried, not just because of the threat, obviously of catching something, but also the fact that you think about the states that are as of the time I'm filming this in mid-July, the states that are really having the biggest struggle right now: North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas. These are all the states that IndyCar and NASCAR have been to recently. So there was a concern that, considering you might not know you're sick for a couple of weeks, and in that course of time, these teams could travel to a couple different race weekends, that this could potentially be a way that we would spread this without knowing. And NASCAR's protocols didn't include any testing beyond asking people about symptoms and what their temperature is. And as you'll see, that's what the IMS protocol was as well. So there was a concern that we could be working in close proximity with people that were possibly infected or exposed, and we might not know about it. And as a result of that, I decided to go on a voluntary 2-week quarantine at the end of the event, something I'll talk about in the video. And as I'm filming this, I'm still a few days away from the end of that. But I felt that I could manage the risk. One of the big concerns I had, being someone who works on pit road, was that it's very hard to social distance on pit road, and you can't always wear a mask. Guys will wear fireproof balaclavas, but there's not a lot of fire resistant facial masks out there. We will be showing you one in our next video. That is actually a fire resistant mask that you can wear if you are in that type of job, and we'll talk about where you can get that. Actually, it's from our friends at Carbon X, so we'll do a review on that in our next video. But I was really worried that we weren't going to be able to take precautions on a crowded pit road. And I'll talk about that later in the video, what that ended up being like. But we'll also go through some of the precautions. I'll show you the morning health check that we had to go through, as much of it as I could show. We'll talk about the mask mandate. Some people followed it, some people didn't. We'll talk about the staggered work start times. They didn't want us all collecting and standing around for a long time, so they asked us to come in later if they didn't need us until later. What we ended up finding out was that it was still well before our assignments started, and we still ended up spending a lot of time standing around. We just spent slightly less than we would have if we'd come in at the first thing in the morning. But we picked up all of our equipment a week ahead of time, so that we wouldn't have to do it in the morning. But as I said, when you're standing around for two hours in the morning before they need you to go out to your assignment, it didn't really make any difference. It wasn't like I could pull up, get out of my car, and go immediately to my position. We still ended up hanging around in the firehouse for a while. So they did some things that on the surface seemed like really good precautions to take, given the threat of the virus. But the way they were implemented and executed and enforced, a lot of those things ended up really being rendered pointless. We did have to sign a really strict waiver that said that even due to the negligence of the race series or the track, that we still had to, give up any ability to litigate. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we were all told, up front that we were going to be individually responsible for what happened, and that we could make that choice if we didn't feel comfortable not to be there, and that it wouldn't be held against us. In this video, you won't see every little thing. I wasn't always able to film. There's things that they don't want us taking pictures of. I didn't want to get kicked off the track immediately for trying to sneak videos in certain places. Obviously, when I was on the job, and my job is to make sure that nobody gets hurt and nothing goes wrong. And when I'm doing that job, I don't have my phone out. I was always filming when I was able to film, and if I wasn't able to film, then I didn't. If it was unsafe or against rules or things like that. So you're going to see that there's a lot of things that unfortunately I can't show you. I wish I could show you what it was like on pit road during the race. I couldn't show you my perspective on that. It's just not something that we're allowed to film. I would be fired if I did that. So I will say that you may want to turn on subtitles for this as I was filming it, just because I was wearing a mask, or because there was a lot of ambient noise, or just because I was using my cell phone for everything instead of an actual microphone. It's difficult to hear me in certain situations, so this is a video where I would highly recommend putting subtitles on, but you should be able to still get everything that I'm saying. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. So I'm at Indianapolis Motor Speedway here a week before the Indy Grand Prix Brickyard 400 weekend, and in order to spread all the activities out, they're having us come here a week ahead of time to get our credentials and our suits and all that stuff. So I'm just pulling up to the firehouse right now to get my stuff. So here at the firehouse, they've got all the suits lined up. So I'm gonna go try and find one that doesn't look too ratty. So I got everything I need for next weekend. I've got some COVID waiver, or not waivers, but questionnaire forms that basically just say I've been healthy the last few days. I've got my parking pass, track credential, got my helmet, my fire suit, and I guess this year they're giving us some hats, and I got a Track Rescue shirt that they give us every year that I had to use as a towel because I left my window open and it started raining outside. So it's wet already. Anyway, got everything I need. Next time I gotta be up here at the track, it'll be Friday morning, and we're gonna be getting ready for some IndyCar and some NASCAR racing.
So it's about 5:30 in the morning on Friday, and I've gotten out of bed. This is supposed to be my day off, but we got racing this weekend, so I'm getting ready to head over to the track to work with the Track Rescue team at IMS. So today's not so bad. I got to be at the track at 7:30 to go through health checks and then report to the firehouse at 8 a.m. Tomorrow, Saturday, which is race day for IndyCar and NASCAR and Xfinity Series, is going to be an earlier start. I have a 7 a.m. report time that day, which means that I got to be there at 6:30 a.m. for health checks. So that's going to be a much earlier morning, but it's still dark out, as it usually is when I do these things. They tend to be early mornings and long days, but that's how these jobs kind of go. So I'm going to keep getting ready and pack some lunch, eat some breakfast, and get out of here and get on my way. So laying out the clothes I have to wear today underneath my fire suit. I'll have my Carbon X undershirt, my long johns, and even a brand new pair of fire resistant socks that I purchased. So also going to have a fire resistant head sock that I'll wear on my head during the race. I've got fire resistant gloves, and then over top of all this, I'll wear my fire suit and my helmet. So that's going to be my wardrobe for this weekend. Some Cocoa Krispies for breakfast, because you need to fuel up properly. And I can't think of a better breakfast than Cocoa Krispies. Well, on my way to the track, got the car packed, got my food, my lunch for the day, got all my equipment, and we're heading to Speedway. So we're coming up to the health check here. We're actually going to pull into the golf course next to the track, and this is where they're going to do our temperature check and take our health survey forms.
Hi.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hi. Track services?
What you got? Oh, IMS?
Yes.
Okay. Number 5, sir.
Thank you.
Number 5.
Good morning. Jason Camps?
C-A-M.
Correct.
Okay, we're going to give you papers to them and they'll take a temperature.
Thank you. Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
And this one for?
You are good to go.
Okay, thank you. And we're clear. Using a slightly different entrance this time. This is the tunnel that takes you under turn 3. We normally would go in where you see that big hauler pulling in right there, the big Penske hauler, but this time we're using this one. And this one's a bit narrow. I think it's usually golf carts going through here. This is the Speedway, and now we're going to be directed to park behind the museum. So I've got a little bit of a walk to go to the firehouse today. Normally we can park right by the firehouse, but because they've got the extra, all the extra teams in, I think they need all the parking they can get. So they're going to put us back here behind the museum. This is actually, you see the track, the road course to our right. This is by where you would have turns 8 and 9 would be this area here. So, oops. And here's where we're at. So we're here. We're parked. Now I'm gonna grab all my stuff and we're gonna walk over to the firehouse now and get started with our day. Normally we would have a meeting in the morning, but today we're just going to do the, we're just going to get our assignment and go, so that way we're not spending too much time gathering in one place with a crowd, which is a smart thing to do. All right, so we got here at the track. We reported. I've got my official IMS mask that I have to wear this weekend. I will say that they're enforcing a mask requirement here at the track. All personnel have to wear masks. Not everybody's wearing them the way they're supposed to. A lot of people are wearing them, you know, down below their nose, sometimes even below their mouth. So, yeah, they've got them on, but they're not necessarily doing anything the way a lot of people are wearing them. I'm glad the track is making everybody do it. I wish people would comply with it the way they're supposed to, so that none of us have to worry about going home sick. But, you know, especially since a lot of these teams are coming from some pretty bad states, you know, where the virus is pretty prevalent. So, it would be nice if they would show some consideration for those of us in Indiana that aren't blowing up yet. But, you know, it is what it is. You got to take care of yourself, and unfortunately you can't rely on other people. So, track's doing their best, but we need people to use some common sense this weekend, and hopefully most people will.
lot of activity going on here in the garage early. We haven't reported yet to our positions, but crap. Is there a Pennzoil logo behind me? Don't worry, I'll fix that. There, that's better. So back home, got home sometime probably between 6:30 and 7 from the track. Super hot. You can probably see my face is red. Came home and just wolfed down a pint of ice cream just to cool off. It was a long day. Tomorrow's gonna be rough too. It's gonna be just as hot, and I've got to be at the track even earlier. So I'm gonna be hydrating all night, so that I've got a head start, so that hopefully I'm in better shape tomorrow. But yeah, did okay today. Feet hurt, back hurts a little bit, just from standing all day, but it wasn't too bad. I dealt with the heat better than actually I kind of thought I would. Took a couple breaks here and there and got out of the sun, but yeah, as far as the whole, pandemic aspect of it all, I'll say this: I had a lot of concerns going into this weekend. After the first day, I can tell you that the teams are taking it pretty seriously. I didn't see too many, people not wearing masks or not wearing them correctly. Most of the guys in the teams were doing what they were supposed to do. I know that we, as the fire team, got contacted at some point in the morning because they noticed some people weren't wearing them right, and so they actually did kind of reach out and say, "Hey guys, make sure you're wearing them correctly." So they were paying attention and they were enforcing it. So that was good. There were a few people here and there who didn't, wear them properly, and but for the most part, people did do what they were supposed to do. So I was glad. Pit road, there really is no way to get away from people. You're kind of in close quarters. We, as a fireman, have to be in a specific spot, and we can't really go anywhere else. So if there's a crowd around us, there's really not much we can do about it because we have to be in position. So, it is what it is. That's why I'm going into a quasi quarantine from this point on. It's just my wife and I at home, and we're going to sleep in different beds and use different bathrooms and try and distance here. But I'm not going to go out and do the grocery shop for the next couple weeks, things like that. I'm just going to go back and forth to the track, and that's it. Everything else is, somebody else is going to have to do. So just to be careful, just because it is so, that environment is so hard to really be perfectly safe within. So tomorrow, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to post from the track. We really are limited on what we can. We can get in trouble for taking photos, videos, things like that. It's gonna be real busy. We've got an Xfinity Series race with NASCAR, and then also an IndyCar race. So I don't know. It's gonna be busy. If I have a chance to give an update, I will. But I wanted to film and as much as I could today because I had some opportunities. So. But we can get in trouble for taking pictures of certain things, so apologize that there's not a lot from the actual action that took place over the weekend. I'd love to be able to show you what goes on pit road and the pit stops and things like that, but that's the sort of stuff that we can get fired immediately for filming any of that. So there's a lot of things that we really can't do. So apologize for that. I know it'd be a lot interesting if I could show you guys that stuff, but I'll show you what I can, and I'll describe what I can as the week goes on. But I hope you guys, enjoy this. What is it? We got three races to go. We still got all day Sunday. to go to. So I'm feeling pretty beat after one day, and I got 2 more days to go. So I'm not looking forward to how I'm going to feel on Sunday night or Monday morning. But hopefully I get a good night's sleep tonight, and I'm going to drink as much water as I can, and hopefully be in good shape in the morning. So that's it for Friday. Now, can I do some weird effect to make it go until all of a sudden it'll be Saturday? No? Okay, I guess we're just going to jump cut then. Well, we are back on the road, heading back to IMS for day 2. And I'm still tired from yesterday. Didn't get as much sleep as I'd like to have gotten. Kept waking up in the middle of the night, so I'm a little tired. Didn't get to eat breakfast before I left, so I'm going to have to grab something quick out of my cooler, or hopefully they'll have something there for us when we get there. But yeah, today's going to be a long day. So back at the track here for day number 2. They work in the fuel island today, which is the area where the teams go back to get gasoline that they then take back to their pits. So I think it's mostly going to be NASCAR teams. It's a pretty easy job from what I understand. I haven't done it before, but that's my job today, and that's where I'll be during the races. So I'll be watching the race on the TV monitor instead of from pit road. Tomorrow I'll be back on pit road. So I'm here at the fueling island. This is where the NASCAR teams come to fill up their gas cans. I gotta be honest with you, this mask they gave us yesterday is such a piece of crap. It is difficult to stay on. It's unweaving already. If you try and talk with it on, it just comes down your face because it doesn't hold tight. If you try and tighten it, it makes it worse because it bunches up. It's really bad. And I noticed a lot of people just started wearing their own after a while. But yeah, I'm over here. There's the fuel truck. So teams come over, and then we stand there with the fire extinguishers in case somebody has an accident and something flares up. But that's what I'm doing all day today. We got a nice little area here where we can get out of the sun. There's a room over there. I don't know if you can see it. I got so much glare on my screen right now I can't see what I'm looking at. But there's a little room over there that's got air conditioning and a TV, so we can actually watch the race if don't need to be out here. But for the most part, we're sitting out here so that we're ready if someone comes by with a fuel can. Yeah, these the Sunoco guys, I tell you, if there's somebody at this track that's completely ignoring all the safety guidelines as far as the CDC stuff, it's the Sunoco guys. They bragged in their morning meeting about how they're being stricter on the rules than the NASCAR guys, who they don't feel are following the guidelines at all. And as they're saying that, nobody in the room is wearing a mask because the Sunoco guys, as soon as they're out of view of the track cameras, they take their masks off. So when they're inside, they don't have to wear masks. And half of them aren't wearing them outside either. So so far, that's the one group I've seen that's really just completely flaunting the rules here. So, although if they had these masks, I wouldn't blame them because they don't stay on anyway. Yeah, so the fact that they think they're doing better than NASCAR scares me as to what's going on in the NASCAR garage right now. I haven't had a chance to get over there and see what that looks like, but if it's worse than the Sunoco guys, that's not very good. So the fact that we're getting more and more guys from the NASCAR crowd getting sick, it's kind of not difficult to see why. That's too bad. It's too bad when they can't even follow their own company rules, let alone the track rules or the series rules. Because I know the Sunoco company policy is that they're supposed to be wearing them too. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm trying to keep my distance from them, but I got to be able to do my job too, and be in the right position if something happens. So unfortunately, that's the theme of the weekend. I'm looking forward to next year when hopefully this isn't a problem anymore.
I actually wondered if it was going to be weird the first day that we had a race without any fans in the stands. I think because I've done so many races here that, or I've done so many practice days here, that I'm sort of used to this place being loud and having the cars go around without fans in the stands. It doesn't really seem that weird. And I've driven in a race here where we didn't really have fans in the stands either, so it really doesn't seem as weird as I thought it would be. You know, I think I have to kind of remind myself, yeah, they're not out there practicing. This is the actual race, but you know, they still do the anthem. They still have the flyover with the A10s for the NASCAR race. They're still going through all of the pomp and circumstance. There's just nobody in the crowd cheering. Well, back in the car with the air conditioning cranked. Today wasn't as bad a day as I thought it would be, because I was working on the fuel island, and we only have to be out there when people are refueling. So most of the time we're able to find a shady spot or even get inside a building with some air conditioning. So actually got to watch the end of the NASCAR race on TV because there's no refueling allowed after a certain point in the game. So we were able to kind of come inside and hang out there until the race was done, and we were all called back into the firehouse. So it wasn't that bad. Had plenty of food to eat, had plenty of water to drink. I'm not, you know, my feet hurt. Obviously there's a little bit of additive discomfort just from yesterday, having 2 days underneath my belt. My feet were hurting before the day started. But today, if I'd been on pit road all day today, I think it would have been a lot worse. So I'm on pit road tomorrow, but it's just the one race tomorrow, the Brickyard 400. So no practice, no qualifying for anything. It's just the one race, so hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. I don't have to report until 10 in the morning, and then I don't think we're probably going to be out on pit road. We might cover the garages for a little bit. We'll see when we get there tomorrow, but I don't think we'll be out on pit road until closer to when the race starts. So hopefully tomorrow won't be too bad, and I'll get a better view of the race than I got today. But not so bad. Going home feeling probably better than I did yesterday, but I'm still going to want to rest up and keep drinking water and prepare for tomorrow. Well, it's Brickyard 400 day. I'm out here at the end of pit road, just waiting for my shift on pit road to start. Should be a shorter day today, I hope. I didn't have to report today until 10, so it's still hot as hell today. I'm wearing a little thicker gear today. I got Carbon X sent me their ultimate line of base layer material here, so it's a little thicker, which means it might be a little warmer, but today's the day I'm on pit road, so if I'm going to need it, I'm going to need it today. So I saved my highest performance stuff for last. It's worth it to be a couple degrees warmer if you're a whole lot safer. So, but we'll see. You know, typically this stuff doesn't cause me to overheat, so maybe today won't be so bad. It's comfortable. I really like it. So if you're thinking about getting some base layer stuff, check out Carbon X's Ultimate line. It's really comfortable. Yeah, I'm going to be hitting pit road later this afternoon. Not going to be much going on until early afternoon. Race isn't until 4. As you can see, there's not a whole lot going on pit road behind me here. I'm at the south end of pit road. But yeah, once I'm on pit road, I won't be able to like show you guys anything or talk about anything. You know, it's been cool to see our sponsors well represented here this weekend. You see the Safety Clean truck behind me. Of course, they're always all over IMS, taking care of the waste oil and just keeping the facility clean in general. I've also seen a lot of our friends at Carbon X here this weekend. A lot of people are wearing the Carbon X mechanics wear gloves that we wear. I've seen those on a lot of teams, and the Sunoco guys were using them. So it's really cool. Our friends at Driven to Save Lives have some advertising here on the road course that maybe you saw during the IndyCar or NASCAR road races. But yeah, it's been really cool to see the folks we work with well represented here this weekend. Tech inspection going on behind me. course, everybody's masked up, keeping, well, not so much distancing, but definitely masked up. So I'm actually watching the garages right now before the race starts, and it is so hot out here. I'm in the shade, but it's so hot out here it starts to take your breath away. But I just found this in the Penske place, and I'm going to use that to cool off. So use the resources you have available. Well, they've got us in a rain delay right now, or actually a lightning delay. So we don't know if that's going to delay the race or not, but we're on standby waiting for the lightning to pass. So we're in a rain delay here at the track. Actually, as I said, a lightning delay. There's some rain in the area. Oh, I missed it. I couldn't show. A10 just flew over. Well, I just wish I could have got that for you. I guess they did the flyover anyway, even though we're not racing right now. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick. Behind me is Pagoda Plaza, and when have you ever seen it look like this during a Brickyard 400? So, you know, sign of the times. Going to be in Matt Kenseth's pit today. He's driving a 42 McDonald's car, backing up Corey LaJoy, and the pit installed behind us. So that's where to watch. Although you're going to be seeing this way after the race, so. Well, that's the end of a long day, longer than it was supposed to be. So I got moved over to Matt Kenseth's pit at the last minute, and he almost won the race, finished second. Second year in a row I've been in someone's pit that was second place with five or less laps to go. Haven't brought home a win yet. I don't know if I'm good luck or bad luck. The one thing I did notice that was different this year was how much more room there was on pit road, which I think might be just a reflection of the fact that they didn't bring full staff and they didn't have sponsors there and things like that. You know, so there definitely was more room. Usually I'm pretty cramped. Usually it's tough to find a place to stand, and this time I could pretty much be wherever I wanted to and not be in anyone's way. So, you know, I think that's the minimal crew size that they were allowing. So that was something that was noticeable, and obviously nobody in the grandstands. But last year's race wasn't real well attended, so it wasn't like there was a massive amount of crowd noise. And when you're down on pit road, you really can't hear anything except what's going on down on pit road, and you're focused on everything down low, on what's happening on the track and what happened in the pit. so you really aren't focusing on the crowd anyway. So that part of it wasn't really as strange. The biggest thing I noticed was just the massive amount of room I had with so few people being on pit road, no fans walking through or anything like that. So that was the big thing. But yeah, I might have a little wrap up when I get home. I'm tired, I'm sweaty, I haven't eaten, so I'm gonna probably bring this to a close, and I'll be back in a second with kind of a wrap up of the weekend.
Hey, so finally made it home. Got home about 10:30 after stopping to pick up some food because I hadn't had dinner. Really tired, sore, a little bit of a headache. As much as I tried to stay hydrated over the weekend, during the races when you're fully covered with your balaclava and helmet and everything like that, it's hard to drink water, just because my face is covered, and you don't want to sit there and do everything every time you want to take a sip of water. So you sort of try and pull it down and take a drink. Some people's fire hoods are a little bit easier to deal with, but mine is essentially the same thing I wear when I drive, so it's not really meant for you to be drinking out of a bottle of water. So because of that, I didn't hydrate really well during the race. I did up to the race, so it wasn't too big a deal, but by the time I got home, I was starting to get a little bit of a headache. But some of that was just having the sun in my eyes. When you're standing on pit road, the sun sets over the front stretch, so you got the sun in your eyes the whole time too, so that doesn't help. But it was an interesting race. It was an interesting weekend. One that definitely haven't seen anything like this before. Hopefully won't see anything like it again. The empty track and so many fewer people. It was fairly full because we had IndyCar there as well. Normally we just have the two NASCAR series, so that filled the space a little bit, but not having the concession stands going, not having the souvenir stands going, the people flooding in and out of the museum, going to see the exhibits and the gift shop, the traffic leaving, there basically wasn't any. That's the stuff that I think was noticeably different. Like I said, during the events, I didn't notice the lack of crowd because we do so many practice sessions and qualifying sessions where there isn't really a crowd anyway, that it just feels like that. You don't even really notice it, and you're so focused on what you're doing at track level that you're not paying attention to crowd noise and things like that. So I guess that wasn't as what I noticed. What I noticed was, like I said, how empty it was on pit road. That was very different, very weird. Not having people lining up on the fence, asking for autographs and things like that. That environment that's usually very crowded was not crowded at all. It was very open after the car behind our pit wrecked on the opening pit stop. They packed everything up, and then it was really open. So it was nice to be able to stretch out for once. Obviously, having to go through the health checks in the mornings, the staggered start times. Usually, we all get there at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning, whatever the time is. And this weekend we had different times where we would show up, so that we weren't all crowded and coming in at the same time, which is nice, being able to actually get a little extra sleep on Sunday. That was a little different. The having to wear the mask all the time is something that I've mostly been staying at home during the pandemic, so I haven't had to go out a lot where I had to wear a mask. So having to wear a mask for 3 straight days was really annoying. I get why people don't like it. It's definitely something you still have to do, but I get why people don't like it. It was an interesting weekend. That's all. Interesting is the only word I can come up with to describe it. For the most part, it was just like any other race weekend. It wasn't that different from last year in the sense that I just was very busy, very hot, very tired at the end of it all. That stuff isn't any different. The stuff that we do really doesn't change because of the pandemic. Not much really. Having to wear the masks and But you know, for the most part, our job really can only be done a certain way. So, you know, we couldn't, you know, we can't really change too many of the things that we do. So I hope that through showing you some of this, that you get an idea of, you know, what the weekend was like on the inside, as opposed to just kind of seeing how the media covered it. You know, as I said throughout, you know, these recordings, you know, we're really not supposed to do a lot of this kind of stuff. So, you know, it's probably going to be a while before this gets posted. I don't know when you're watching this, but, you know, I won't post it right after the race, just in case they, you know, they're, you know, I don't think there's anything that I took video of that's the problem. I try to make sure that I wasn't videotaping anybody's pit stall or things like that. Anything that would be strategic. Try to make sure it was, you know, generic stuff behind me, but I want to let you guys kind of see what the experience is like. Not only what it was like during the pandemic, but also just what it's like, you know, working on the track rescue team, and just giving you guys a glimpse of that, because that's something that you don't see very often. It's just kind of in the background, and the guys there do great work, and I think it's something that people should get a chance to see more of. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know this was all raw, kind of shooting the whole thing on my cell phone, but I hope that it gave you an idea of what it's like to be on that team, and what it was like to go through a Brickyard 400 during the pandemic. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to do another video like this ever again, but it was, you know, rewarding to give everyone a chance to, you know, to see this side of the sport. So I hope everybody who's watching this is healthy and staying safe. And I guess that's it. So we'll see you on the next lap.